Evening all. How are we all doing? Wet and windy here. Actually, this was a good test for the dev shed because we had like 50-60 mile an hour gusts plus heavy rain, and so far, touch wood, there's been no leaks, no drips, no damp patches, the roof is still on, so I think we're good. And yes, we have shelves now. Shelves! I haven't really filled them up yet. Just basically just emptied boxes straight onto them. It's not particularly organised, but as I unearth my various knickknacks, I shall put them on the shelves. The echo might be coming from... No, it can't be coming from the speakers. Yes, I do love my flamethrower. It is very cool. Is anyone else getting an echo? I mean, it could be the room. Could be. What, like? There. How's that? Yeah, weird. Yeah, I don't think I've got it outputting anything on this side. Cobalt Dragon, quick question. What percentage of Starship is finalized? Blimey. I would say... Well, it's difficult to say because it's not like one singular project. It's like it's various different elements all joined together to create a whole. So if we're talking about the Galaxy Sim and that side of things, I reckon we're 60-70% done on the fundamentals. Things like the character system and gameplay systems, they're much further behind. So character system needs a full remodel, so I'd say 10% on just the basics. None of the planned gameplay systems have pretty much been started yet, so you can't really call any of those done. Although the sensors are, I would say, again 70% towards their final vision, what we want them to be. So really it just depends on which aspect of the game you're interested in. Thanks, Velvet. Yeah, the first round of recruitment is done. We've taken a break for a bit to get this demo release out because we really want to get the public demo updated and focus fully on doing that. Once that's done, we'll do our second round of recruitment, and then hopefully we'll get some more nibbles. It is actually an animatronic one as well, and it needs batteries, but what I might do is hook it up to the mains and just have it just wiggling away in the background. Should be quite cool. Yeah, so we hired a couple of concept artists to do various bits and pieces, mainly just aspects of the Magellan class. They've now completed the tasks that we assigned to them. We're looking to take on a full-time concept artist, but we need one in the UK because of international employment laws. We've got a Unreal generalist we've been looking at. We're quite far along with that one. We're just waiting for a portfolio piece. Once that's done, we should be able to bring them on board. And that aside, we really want a shader artist, but that's going to have to wait until after the demo's done. Again, we can't really focus on the recruitment side of things until the demo update is out and live to the public. One thing at a time. I certainly can, Delta, if you give me a sec. Where did I put it? That's the question. Yeah, that one. Oh, I've just realised all you can see is my face. That's no good. Yeah, so this is the concept we had done for the engines at the back of the ship. Hang on, just waiting for Blender to wake up. There we go. Yeah, this is the engine concept that was done. We had another guy who was working on the windows at the front of the ship, but he's gone completely AWOL, so not sure what happened there. Yeah, I use SketchUp for the most part to do all my modelling. This is just what the concept artist was using. And yes, the engines will be accessible. So up the pylons here, there will be staircases and access ways. It's probably going to be the case that we have weapons placements on the top of these engine pods. So they're not fully used as engine pods, they're kind of dual purpose. And then there'll be the actual engine nozzles at either end, and some fuel tanks and things inside. So they're not, it's not like this entire structure is just fully engine. There's actually rooms and things and storage tanks inside of these pods. So that they're really just an extension of the ship as a whole. Yeah, name of the ship there. Yeah, the shield emitters are going to go around this curve here. So there'll be a grid that goes around there like that. So there, oops, and there, and underneath and on top as well. Sure, yeah, I'll share the blend file if anyone wants to open it up in Blender and have a proper look. The finished version will be slightly different from this, because with the concept art, the attachment point for the engine pylons is completely in the wrong place. It needs to be over here. So that's going to move over a bit. The engines won't be quite so egg-shaped. They'll be a little bit more squared off than that. But the general idea of this edge flowing into this curve, that will remain, as well as some of the geometry around here. Although I might actually make an aft observation deck there between the engines, which could look quite cool. yeah, that's not representative of our shuttle model. That was just a scale marker. Yeah, so there we go. That is the concept. But yeah, we had 2 concept artists engaged. This was the first concept artist who did the engines for us. The second one was also supposed to do the engines. We wanted to get a couple of different people's takes on the design, just looking for ideas really. And he was also supposed to do the front of the ship with the big windows for the arboretum there. But again, he's kind of disappeared off the scene. Don't know where he went. We've had that with a few people actually. They've contacted us. We've asked for either a bit of concept work or some portfolio pieces, and then we just don't hear from them again. So just a note, if anyone wants to apply for any of the positions we're advertising, please be prepared with some kind of portfolio, because we will be asking for one. I don't know how big these cubes are, to be honest. These are just something that he left on there. I don't think they're not like 1 meter cubes. I mean, the height of that deck is 3 meters, if that helps. So it's quite big. Anyhow. No, Cobalt, nothing like that. No, Paul. No, he wasn't paid. So what have I been doing? Basically, I've been fixing some of the major bugs, mostly relating to multiplayer. In fact, let's give it a quick whirl. Just wanted to see how well this works on stream with 2 clients. Did it work at all? Yes, there we go.
Initiating survey.
Hush, Ava. Yeah, I'll probably have to do it like this. But here we have a client and a server set up, and as you can see, we've got, for the most part, we have the sensors and everything now working properly in multiplayer. The issue, which you can probably see here, is that for the client in the bottom right, there's nothing on the screen, whereas for the server, obviously we've got our list of star systems. Now, if I go into one of those and just click View Detail, you'll see that on the client, it now has the holo display and it has the list of systems there. So that's all working. Now, the reason it's not working when you have the main display is simply because of the amount of data. So what's happening is the variable's not replicating. Now, I managed to narrow that down earlier today. So this is where we do the culling to decide how much data to include. If I drop that down to 10 light years rather than the default of 50.
Initiating survey.
Now we see that it's actually now replicating for both the client and the server. Hang on, I've lost the client. Where are you? There you are. So you can see here we actually have the full listing on the client and the full listing on the server, and both of them have the holo display. And if I mess with the controls there, you can see that zooms out for both the client and the server at the same time. So that's all perfectly in sync. But that presents us with an issue. Obviously, we need to be able to send more data than that. This gives us it an issue with new clients joining. Basically, we need to have the data stored in a replicated variable, so any new client joining has the current state of things. They have the right set of star systems, the right state for the sensors console, and everything is synced across the client and the server. Now we're doing that with rep notify functions, but because the Galaxy data is so huge, obviously that's not going to work for us. So what we're going to have to do is kind of break that relationship a little bit, and I have started doing that now. So what we do, right, so when we filter and sort all of our data, this is where it ends up. So we have our filtered locations, i.e. capped at 50 light years, and then we broadcast that out as a payload. So we got an array, which is basically just star systems, and there's very little data there, but that's usually around about 1.5 to 2,000 rows in that array, so it's quite chunky. And then obviously this is happening on the server. So because it's server authoritative, we can then populate a replicated variable like so. So this is reacting to that broadcast. We set our variable, which is what's happening here, and then we update our UI, which is what this is, the widget blueprint. We set some variables on that widget blueprint, which is just a copy of that data, and then we force it to update the display. So what's not happening is this bit. So this rep notify is not firing on the client. I mean, it won't even get this far. So this is running on the server, but not the client. So essentially this won't work. So we need to come up with a better way of doing it. Now, ideally, this should be generated by the server and passed along, but we're going to have to force the client to do it instead. Yeah, we could spread it out perhaps, but you're going to get chicken and egg scenarios where the data hasn't finished sending before it's needed. So it's better to have the data generated on the client, so then we're not having to pass it over the network at all. But it's a case of making sure the client actually generates it when it's needed, which is what we'll work on tonight. Sorry, just catching up with the questions a sec. Yes, on it does look awful. This is an Unreal bug where if you have a common UI element which you're configuring using variables, they don't fire within the editor, so you end up with this mess. When you actually run the game, it's fine, they fire then, but they don't fire there. Hey Ian, and tonight we are fixing probably our biggest replication issue with the new sensors. Oh, I fixed the lights as well, so we had an issue where the lights were really, really bright for clients. That will no longer be the case. Okay, right, so I need to get my head around what order to do this in. Conceptually, I'm trying to make sure everything happens on the parent blueprint for the widget. So we don't want anything happening on the widget itself other than readouts. So no logic, no compute, nothing's happening on the widget blueprint. We want it all done on the underlying blueprint. So let's follow that breadcrumb trail through. Okay, so right, so we've got two things here. The galaxy data is being generated on game state, and this is something I did about 3 years ago now, and it's kind of come back to bite me a little bit because only the server has a copy of game state. So although we can access it from the clients, really we shouldn't be. So the Galaxy Gen system should be something that's running as an isolated piece of code. So I need to kind of separate that from the game state at some point. But for now, I think we can just access that stored data perhaps. Because what we can do is rather than sending the data out as a payload, we can instead send an event out just to let everything know that there is some data there that has been generated. But is that going to work on the client? That's the question. Let's grab our game state and have a look. Game state, there you are. It's been a while since I looked at this last. There's a fair bit of redundant code here, which we don't need anymore. I won't clean it up quite yet, but I think most of this has been replaced now with much more efficient versions. Right, so if we set up an event for that. Let's call it Galaxy sorted. I apologise for this keyboard, by the way, it's very clacky. I need to get a replacement. So we've got no payload on this one, so we just need to grab a copy of that. Get that. Okay, and then on this one, rather than doing that, copy paste it to make sure there are no typos. So what's happening now is rather than sending that out, we're just making the world know that there is some data now that has been generated. Hang on, I might actually have referenced the wrong array, so it's filtered locations, the one we actually want. So now the game state's going to update itself with this data. So that's now stored on the game state, ready for any game systems to access. But, that's going to be client side. So what we actually need to do I guess we actually need these here. Yeah, we need this to be a multicast because we want to force this on the client as well. Let's try that actually, because those are, that's a server event, that's a server event, which means this does have authority on the server, which means we can actually make that a multicast. Now what gives me pause with this is the fact that it's running on, this is a blueprint component which is attached to game state, and because game state only exists on the server, this might not work. Let's try it this way again a sec. Yeah, so that's going to run on the server, and then ultimately that generates that, and then we do that, which is still running on the, still multicast at that point, which means that's going out multicast. Which means, where are we? Yeah, we'll connect that to the remote as well. Which means both the client and the server are doing this. Alright, so before we do anything with it, let's just verify that both the client and the server are getting that far. Yes, Selaf. Let's give that a quick try a sec.
Initiating survey.
Right, so the server is definitely getting that far.
Initiating survey.
Yeah, so as expected, that multicast is only firing on the server. Again, because the game state only exists on the server, which means they need pulling off of there, which is going to be no small job. Okay, before we go down that road, because getting them off of there is going to be a massive undertaking, which we don't particularly want at this point. Let's just make sure that the other data is being generated, because what we could do is when the ship moves 1 light year, we can have the have that data generated client side directly by requesting it from the galaxy generator, as we do with custom sectors. So hang on, let's just make sure that one's still working.
Initiating survey.
So when we go to the custom data here, that is also working on the client. So, and weirdly, there's 2,000 entries in the array here, and it's quite happy to replicate that, which is a weird one. Yeah, it's definitely generating the data live. But we're doing that slightly differently. We're actually directly Did we just lose the stream for a minute then? Put your hand up if you can hear me. Okay, good. It's just OBS complaining. Yes, what we're doing here is we are actually doing a multicast for generating the data via a blueprint interface, which then gets fed back. Now we know that that data exists. And what we don't want to do, we don't want that data generated arbitrarily every time we click something on the sensors. So we need to generate once, store it, and then only regenerate it when the ship actually moves anywhere. Just wondering, actually. Wondering whether or not it might not be the size of the data that's the problem. It could be the sorting of the data taking too long that's the problem. Get rid of all that junk a minute. Don't need that. Okay, I'm going to skip the sort function and see whether or not that works. Yeah, which means we need to make sure that so that's doing that there. Get rid of that one there. Pop that back on there a minute.
Initiating.
Okay, so now it's not the sort function that's doing it. What if we skip the async bit just to check? So if we take that, pop that in there, and connect that there. Right, so technically now it's a lot more data that's going across because we're not sorting it in any way.
Initiating long-range survey.
Yeah, I really didn't like that. Too much data. Okay, yeah, Yes, we definitely won't do that.
Initiating long-range survey.
Oh, okay, that's weird. What's happening there? Yeah, I tried adding a delay last time, and it didn't seem to make much of a difference. It's weird, I'm not sure why that's suddenly having a fit. Yeah, that still looks like what it should do. That's still fine there. Yeah, that's just usual errors because we're not running two separate machines. It's two clients on the same server.
Initiating long-range survey.
Definitely doing the filter, definitely doing the sort. Yep. Ah. That's why it was breaking. Still had the old data.
Initiating survey.
Shut up. Right, so we've got how many targets? 15. Okay. And same amount there. Yep, same view there. Right, so how many before it fails? Let's go for half the distance, 25 light years.
Initiating survey.
Okay, yep, still working. And how many is that? 229. Okay. Yeah, those errors are usually reasonably easy to shoo away. I will keep clearing the log though.
Initiating survey.
Okay, so that's failed now because we're only seeing the server sorting and generating the data. What about 35?
Initiating survey.
No, that's still failing as well. Okay, and how many is that? That's... There's only 600 odd targets, so that's not a lot of data, and certainly not as much as that, which is fine for the other one. True. I mean, we can easily test that, to be honest. Because we can resize that. So if we set that to 510 out of interest. Turn off auto activate on those audio files a minute. Okay, no, so that one didn't work. Let's try 500. Nope. Okay, 400. Okay, so that one did work. And 450 did not. Alright, so let's clear our log a minute. Let's see if we can see any errors. No. Yeah, I think it's either going to be a packet size problem where it's just too much data, or it's going to be something to do with the fact we're doing it async. Yeah, there's nothing really there about it. Okay, so it's after this point. Yeah, so basically there's nothing in the log to suggest what happens there. Yeah, because all this IP stuff here, this is all just the server shutting down. That's nothing to do with generating the galaxy stuff. I don't know CSI, to be honest. I'd have to look into that. So the thing that confuses me is the data we're sending there is sector locations, and then when we do our single sector generation, we're also just sending sector locations, although we are doing that directly here. So we're firing this function via a blueprint interface, and that's just generating that data, but then it's passing that back directly via this. So that goes straight back to the requesting actor, which of course in this case is this one, and it just spits out the data there. So this is happening offline. There's no replication involved in this. So we need this same behavior for the galaxy data. Now, the problem with that is that whilst this is generating a single sector on demand, which is fine, the other way around, the galaxy data is not generated on demand. It's generated based on the ship position. So we need to again force the client to generate and store a copy of that data. Right, so can we... Hey Jim. Can we get the client to... Well, the client can do this, which is interesting because the client can run this function on this game state component via multicast. So it can definitely access it. So can we do something else? Because if that data exists already, because we can store this locally, but to retrieve it, it's still going to have to replicate it, because it's going to have to be a replicated variable. I wonder. So I wonder whether it's a limit of this, not necessarily Unreal, because this is a plugin that I'm using to do global events. Sort of anonymous global events, which is great because it's got no reference chains, no casting needed. It's really, really good. But there could be an issue with this and payload size as opposed to Unreal and network payload size. So let's try that then. So if we store this, do we have a, here we do, that one. Just make sure I'm not using it somewhere else. No, doesn't look that way. So I can use that one. Let's not resize that, let's keep it its current size. Okay, so if we replicate that, that should give us a replicated source for that data. Okay. So when we click on that sensor mode, let's go ahead and get that data and update this one. Actually, I won't write it yet. So it's going to be a horrible casty thing to begin with, just to verify that it works. Okay. All we want to know here is how many star systems are in that array. It's either going to be many or none. You can be purple. Hey CNC. Right, let's see. Right, so the server is reporting 1,686, which is equivalent there, and the client is reporting nothing. Which makes sense actually, because this is happening on the server. So what we also need to do, and this is going to make it even messier, set up a multicast a minute. Get star systems. Multicast. Make that get Star Systems, get rid of that, pop that in there. Right, so this should run on the client as well then. Okay, so the client is reporting 0. Not altogether unexpected. Right, so at least we're bypassing this, so we can rule that out. So if we resize that array again, back down to 400, does the client get 400? No. Okay. That one. Okay, so I'm going to try storing that on game state instead, which means this needs to be replicated. Okay. Right, so we resize it, store it on game state, and then do the usual, which means from here rather, and we don't need that bit, just need that one. Ooh, okay. Right, so both the client and the server are reading 400. Good start. So let's remove the cap and see whether they both get 1600. No. Alright, so basically the same problem. Just to verify that it's exactly the same problem. Yeah. So server gets 500, client gets nothing. So, okay. So yeah, definitely the same problem in that it will not replicate that array when it's that big. Which means we now need to deal with a rather large chicken and egg problem. I don't think I've ever made a lasagna before, but I'm willing to give it a go. I don't believe so, Ethan, no. Basically, Unreal Engine is designed for games like Fortnite, so it's designed for really small packets sent really, really quickly. You know, your typical first-person shooter kind of environment. It's not really designed for massive chunks of data. Not that this is a huge chunk of data. I mean, an array with 500 rows, when it's not even like a large amount of data in the struct that's here. So if we break the struct, that's it. That's all it is within this struct, which is nothing. There's no data at all. It's like 1 kilobyte at most. Although I'm sure I remember reading somewhere that the packet limit was 64 kilobytes. So that might explain why it's failing. Yeah, most of it's UDP. Yeah, sadly that's not really relevant in this case, Team Ready. This isn't an ownership issue, this is a packet size issue. The ownership issue is the fact that we have the Galaxy Gen happening on what is a server-side and server-owned actor. So the proper solution to this is to break that relationship and have the Galaxy Gen as a standalone actor in the world, which is completely isolated from game state and serving its data, on demand for any clients that need it. The issue of querying it from the server is that it's too much data. So the server goes like, blah, here's the data, and then the packet doesn't make it because it's too big. So we need to be able to generate that data offline by having the same functions that are on the game state component running on the client, which we do that for the manually selected sectors. That works fine because that's exactly what we're doing. The reason it's not quite that straightforward for the Galaxy data is because we're dealing with a lot more data. There's a lot more chunks involved. Yeah, we might be able to compress it. I'll have to have a look at that. But, to be honest, it's better to do it client-side anyway. If we can get away with doing it client-side, we should, because otherwise we're having to send the entire list of local stars over the network every time the ship moves 1 light year. So we're generating a lot of network traffic, which we can use for other things. So shifting that client side is definitely the way forward. So we know what the problem is, and we know how we can't solve it. So what we need to do is basically we need to fire this event as a function, because we need to do it via a recruitment interface, so it needs to operate as a function. The problem with that is that we're doing stuff on the background thread, so that's kind of going to bite us. Because it's the sort function that's going to mess us up there. Yeah, I think that's 65 kilobytes per channel. I don't know how many channels we have available actually. I need to look into that. I mean, there are any files and you can increase packet sizes. That's kind of pushing the problem under the rug rather than fixing it. We don't want that to be multicasting anymore. Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the whole thing is UDP based. Yeah, I think Unreal has multiple channels where you can send data down. It's not just a single stream. You can send data in parallel. I just don't know how off the top of my head. Just to satisfy my curiosity, I'm going to stick a delay there before we send any data out. And I'm going to stick another delay at the other end when we receive it. Right, let's get rid of that because that's not needed now. Stick a delay before we do the cast. Yeah, and that can stay as is. Looks like it only ran on the server. It's interesting that the rep notify doesn't fire at all. I guess it's dropping that update completely. I don't think you can force that behavior. No, that's more about when it can replicate. Yeah, not a lot of help there, I'm afraid. Yes, I can do that, Ruddy, but not on stream. That's something I'll have to go and do afterwards. Yeah, so the issue we have is that generating the galaxy data is a huge job. There's a lot of data. It's something like 30 to 40,000 rows in an array, and then we trim that down depending on need. And that action, which is 24 sectors, I believe, 3 times 3 times 3. So that's our 3 by 3 by 3 grid of sectors. Now we need to generate that 3 by 3 by 3 grid all at once, and that's a lot of data. So if it's fine, we can do that on the client, but we need to make sure that that's only done once on the client, and not done every time like you interact with the UI. So it's something we have to do sparingly, and the only time we do it right now is when the ship passes into a new sector. So when it crosses that border, we generate the 3 by 3 by 3 grid, and then we don't touch it until the ship leaves that sector and goes somewhere else. And then we also then just access that stored data every time the ship's moved a single light year, so that we can recalculate all the distances. But what we can do no, Paul, it's all seed based. So the galaxy wouldn't be any different for servers and clients. It's literally just you're generating the data offline rather than doing it over the network. So you're saving a lot of network bandwidth by doing it locally, which, you know, given the amount of data we're generating, it makes a lot more sense to do it locally. Which we can do, or rather we could do, if the code wasn't running as a blueprint component hanging off of the back game state. So really all of this needs removing from that, which I might just have to bite the bullet and do. Yeah, in the future, we're going to do something similar to that, where we intelligently generate sectors based on where those sectors are relevant to the ship. So if you think about it, if you have that 3 by 3 by 3 grid, when you move, say, in the positive X direction, then the 9 sectors that are in front of you can simply move backwards in the order and not have to be regenerated, because they're just moving backwards relative to the ship. So generating all 24 sectors every time is actually unnecessary. So we need to add some intelligence to it to stop that from happening. And then we are storing some data and only generating the data we actually need. Right, let's have a crack at this a minute and see what breaks. So we'll take the whole thing. Yeah, do nothing. Nice, actually, none of that's being used now. Which means we don't need it on here either. Yeah, just in the zone, team ready. Which one's that? Hoorah. Right, that's going to be an offline job, that one, because I'm going to have to type in all these again, and no one wants to watch me do that. Right, so in principle then, this will work fine as is. There's a couple of macros that will need to be rebuilt, but that should be fine. Yeah, so they all need redoing. That one's fine. Where's the sort one? That one's fine, that's not needed anyway. It's not a huge amount of fixing to do there, but by doing it like this, what we can do is, so like down here we've got this little box, and what this box does is this generates the planet textures for the holo display and for the sensor readout over there, and eventually this will generate the textures for the planets in the world as well. So we've actually got a physical, what will be a little server box that's doing that work, which is kind of nice little sort of a meta thing within the game. So we'll do another one of these for the Galaxy Gen as well. So the Galaxy Gen will actually exist in the world as a little fake server with a flashy light on it. Which means with that being accessible via a multicast, because it's not owned, or rather it exists on the client and the server, because we can just have netload on client enabled. That means that the data that gets generated when the ship traverses a single light year is done via multicast rather than just on the server, which means every client has a copy of that data. And we just need to make sure that newly joining clients then immediately generate the galactic data upon joining, which means they then have access to the same data as everyone else. So that will solve that problem. So in order to make that transition, basically I need to just retype all these offsets. So this is the 3x3x3 grid of sectors basically, and the offset for each sector. So I just need to retype those out, and then hook up basically just those macros that are missing references, and that should at that point be an easy transition, and that will solve all the networking issues we've got with that data. Yes, they will go in the data center. So any This is just a test map, which is why it's all like unfinished and lacking a ship. But any game system which is performing any of the back-end stuff within the game will exist as a physical server within the server room on a server rack. It doesn't need to, we can just hide it somewhere, but I think it's kind of like a nice little thing just to have that like in the game. So, you know, if you go into the server room, there will be a server that has a little note on it that just says like Galaxy Gen on the side, and you know that that box is the thing that's generating the galaxy in the game. It's a weird kind of meta thing. Game within a game. Right, so I won't bother continuing with that now, because that's going to be a lot of me just going type. So what I'll do for the rest of the stream is I will go and do some more floor panels, because surely they're far more interesting. Hang on, SketchUp's opening on the wrong window. Wrong monitor, rather. Come on, SketchUp, over here. That's not a bad idea, actually, CSI. Yeah. If you do anything off-road, Matt, Claire will come along and beat us. Although, to be fair, we do lack the door to it at the moment, because up on C deck we've got no door to the server room, which is where it will be. So the plan for C deck was to have the astrometry lab here taking up this whole space, also over 2 decks. So like a big tall room with big hollow display in the middle, like the bridge, so you can go in there and do some sort of dedicated astrometry work. But it made more sense to have the server room on C deck where all the other science stuff is happening. So we need a door in here somewhere. I suppose it makes sense to have it there at the back, sort of opposite the astrometry lab. And then the server room is going to be over 2 floors. This is an easy thing to quickly fix there. Let me just take that. Should be the whole door structure. Have a door. Yay for consistent sizing. Yeah, there will actually be a terminal. It'll be more Cisco-like than Bash. So you'll be able to, say from an engineering console, you'll be able to connect to any device on the ship and run sort of shut and unshut commands on interfaces and things. So you'll be able to switch breakers from the bridge just by logging into that box, wherever it may be on the ship. Yeah, Cisco, as in the networking company. I don't know actually. First, I'll have to check that. Yeah, it doesn't need to be a parser as such, no differently to how the chat box works currently. Right, let's get off of this test map a minute. Yeah, it'll just be when we get to it, and I see there's lots of things to do and no time to do it in, so it's just a case of we will get to things when we get to them. Right, let's put that door there. Okay, that one, that one, that one, and that one. Okay, there's our door. If we pop the framework on from there, yeah, so that's our server room floor, which again is on C deck now. And, let's see if we can fix that mesh up a little bit. Better. Nice smooth normals. Thanks, Zephyr. Right, so we were doing these, weren't we? So let's do this run here. Science labs will be added basically when we've got some science to do. The first, I guess, probably around about patch 227, because 226 is going to be all about the bridge gameplay and making sure that we've got our ability to command NPCs all sort of done and dusted. After that, then we can have a look at sending down probes to planetary surfaces, and then once we've got that probe gameplay sorted, then we'll need some way of analysing those samples. So it'll be at that point where we add the science labs, because there's actually, an actual use case for having them. That's pretty much how everything's going to be. Things will be added as they are needed. You'll be able to, hang on, just catching up on chat. Zelaf, yeah, so the networking side of things, basically we've got to the point where we cannot send the Galaxy data across the network as is. So the only two practical solutions is either break that data up or make sure it's being generated on the client. Now, I'd much rather do it on the client because then we're not sending it across the network at all, which is the preferable way of doing it because we're not generating unnecessary network traffic. So what we will do is remove the Galaxy Gen system from the game state where it currently resides. Because when I first built it, I did it as a blueprint component hanging off of the back of game state, which in hindsight was not the best way of doing it. Because now we need to be able to access that data from the clients, and being that only the server has a copy of the game state, it makes all of that awkward. So I need to migrate the Galaxy Gen to its own actor within the game world, so it have its own little physical presence as a little server in the server room. But it means that because that also then exists on the client as well as the server, we can do client-side Galaxy Gen, which means we don't need to send the data across the network at all, which solves all those problems. But it's going to take me a bit to go through and fix all the functions after having migrated them over, so it's not very interesting to watch on the stream, so I thought I'd do a bit of modelling instead. Will we be able to probe the 7th planet in the solar system? God. Right, hang on. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, I suppose, if you're counting Ceres or not, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. So Uranus. Well, that took me way too long to get that. Yes, you will definitely be able to probe Uranus and its moons. I fell right into that trap. Well done. Tegel, no, the spinning of the coils is literally just there for the cool factor. Or am I that old? I certainly feel that old. Yeah, thanks PC5. Yes, this is your daily reminder that this is not a Star Trek game, and you should not expect to find any Star Trek in it, because you will not find any. It's a good question, Ishtar. What would I do differently? I think having better lift access up to A deck, I think I definitely do that differently. That turned into a bit of a nightmare in the end, having to go and put a separate lift in the VIP lounge to get up to the top there. So I think I would have done that differently with a new design. That aside, we've kind of evolved the process as we've gone along, so most of those lessons have been learned along the way anyway. So yeah, maybe a bit more modularity. I think that's the only thing I'd change. Or I suppose actually the other thing I would change is I would perhaps do a better job at mapping out the number of crew members needed versus the actual facilities on the ship. Because we kind of did it the wrong way around. We decided upon 200 crew members, and then set about making rooms to fit them all and places for them to be and jobs for them to do. It would have been better to do that the other way around. Decide what science needs to be done, and then how many people need to be there to conduct that amount of science, and kind of build the crew and the ship together rather than separately. Then it would have been an easier job. I don't think we need to write anywhere that a disclaimer, like Dan didn't create the star system, like the Sol system. I think that kind of goes without saying. Zelaf, yeah, I think yes and no, because having the circular design has been both a help and a hindrance. So it's helpful in that, when you're making corridor segments like this, you're just copying things in a circle. As long as you keep all the segments the same size, it's very copy pastable. But I think perhaps a footprint-based modular system would have been better, and I will certainly explore that for the next ships, whereby we have a grid system, and then the room can either take up, say, 1 grid square, or 4 grid squares, or 8 grid squares. So you have rooms and locations on the ship taking up like predefined grids in terms of their space. What gives me pause with that is I don't want it to feel too blocky and like it's been constructed like that arbitrarily. The reason we're building the ship the way we are is because I want it to feel like it's a real physical vessel that's built for purpose, rather than just being the typical thing in a game where you just bolt pieces together and kit bash stuff. Yeah, basically just more modular. That's true actually with the cruise liners, yeah. I mean, one of my favourite videos happens to be a cruise liner being constructed, because I'm sad like that. I'm sure Claire would definitely approve of that. Hopefully I can remember all the angles and sizes I used on these. It's been a few days since I made one last. I think they were 1.5 in the corners, and then 1 centimetre here. Feels about right. Okay, that's 1.982. It should be the same here. Yeah, close enough. One side done. I will confirm that I very much do not dance. This is the only shapes that I will be throwing. Haha, I see what you did there. That's technically not true, actually. I do recall a bit of, I suppose you could call it dancing in Bristol. We went to see a few metal bands. Was it a beer keller? Something like that. No idea, Christopher. That's the honest answer. It's difficult to put a time frame on it. We shall just plod along, one bit of geometry at a time, and then to keep going until we run out of bits of geometry that are needed. And then it will be done. Hey Rich, I'm making another floor panel to go with the plethora of floor panels that there are. Yeah, there will be an academy, and the idea with that is we want it to be part of the tutorial mission. So it would be particularly cool is if the full gameplay tutorial, once we get to that point, starts off on Earth in some kind of an academy type building where you learn the basics of whatever your role is, and then you are boarded onto a shuttle and you then fly up to your vessel to do the in-space version of that training, or rather the finishing stages of that training. So it will be very much a tutorial thing rather than anything else gameplay wise. Oh, thanks, Rich. Okay, one more panel done. Oh, actually, almost done. It needs its bolts. Okay, where did that go? Right, that's that bit done. Next, we need to add some axes on here. Well, funnily enough, on the whole scroll wheel thing, I've got two separate solutions here next to me. I've got, I think it's the G90 Logitech mouse with a spinny scroll wheel that kind of just keeps on spinning. And I've also got a 3D mouse that I was sent. I'm not getting on brilliantly with the Logitech mouse because it doesn't have a very grippy wheel. It's quite slidey. And I haven't tried the 3D mouse yet, so I do have them. Yeah, the unlocked spinny wheel is a little bit extreme. Scares me. Facial expression based zooming would be funny, especially if you had to concentrate. Sort of go zooming in and then to zoom out. That's alright, CSI. I will persevere with it. I'm just deeply intimidated by its spinny wheel. Why would it not just inherit the world origin? Right, that should be that one done. Oh, that's true. Yeah, just move my head. Much easier. Time for some whiskey. I mean tea. How is that still hot? I made this morning. get this into the engine. Thank you, CSI. I remembered. Right, so we're going to need some sockets on this mesh, just to be annoying. That ain't gonna snap. Just making sure the optimization's set properly there. Want to do that. I wanted to copy the whole mesh, whole actor rather. That's better. Right, so one there, one there, one there, and there. There we go, that'll do. Yes, true, Zaf. Yes, Christopher, you will be able to customize and upgrade your ship on your travels. As you research new things, you'll be able to upgrade your existing things. does this socket need to go? 1756877. Why are you over there? Uh, 2244078. It's going to be awkward. Okay, so the Unreal coordinate is... Oh, hang on. Where did it get exported from? That's the question. There. So basically I need to make sure that the socket location lines up from where the mesh was exported from, and it was exported from over here, not over there, which is why that didn't quite line up properly. So that should be 2244073. Right, so they need to be transposed then, I suppose. Uh, 1756882. That's more like it. And that should be minus 38057. Rotated the other way around. Okay. That should give us our clicky clicky. Pop. Okay, socket 1. And because these are copied, that will also work there, and it will also work over here. Oops, all right. Oh yeah, not that one. That one. Okay. Next. Two, 3, 9, 3, 6, 8, 2. 1546860. $32.871. Plus 180 to turn it round, and that should be that one done. Do I make one big one to go there or not? See, I kind of did there, but I'll have a look at how much. Yes, there's quite a big gap there, which only had a small gap there. It's probably better off being 2 panels. In which case, we should do this one here. Yeah, absolutely. Standard sizing all the way. 2523697. One 324 176. Okay, now the rotation. 27686 plus 180. Plop. So for this one here, I should be able to copy those same sockets over. It should not be a problem. Okay, that one next. Right. 272853. $848,200. Oh yeah, looking in the wrong spot. I do all the material work in Unreal Engine. SketchUp's not particularly very good for texturing and UV mapping. Move these so I don't get confused. $2786380. 598805. Yeah, there's definitely multiple layers to the modeling process. Just throwing some geometry together is great when you start off. You know, when you start getting to, you know, having to do good UV mapping and hiding the seams and, you know, making sure your normals are smooth, and, you know, there's a lot to modeling that people don't realize. I mean, UV mapping can take longer than the model itself sometimes. 2829098. I'm sure I just remembered that wrong. Yeah, I did. Three, 4, 4, 507. Yeah, I wish you could. I mean, there is one way you can do it. If you add a label like that, as you can see, it says the name of the component, which is annoying. But like, if you have a bit of geometry there, and you draw a label off of that instead, you actually get the coordinates, and then you can just, you know, copy paste that as needed. But that doesn't work if the thing under the cursor just happens to be a component or a model, a group. I haven't found a way of like forcing it to give the coordinates rather than the name. I mean, that might just be a skill problem on my part, but I haven't found a solution to it. I wonder if there's a Ruby script or something I could put together for it. Which one will now, that one? Because what I could do is I could do this. Just trace over. Trace over these. assuming it's still going to give the component name. Oh no, it doesn't. Okay, that's one solution then, just draw all over it. The positives and negatives are often different as well, like they'll be inverted. Not sure whether they are on this one or not. No, they're not on this one. Sometimes they will be, just to further ruin your day. That was on top of the other one. Did I just... I know that is right. What's going on here? Oh, so of course now it says component. What if I highlight it first? Nope. Alright, so if I get rid of that, and then do the label, still going to say component. Well, that's unreliable. Do it the old-fashioned way. 2829099. Three, four, four, 500. That's the problem. So that's that inversion problem I was talking about. So because the SketchUp and Unreal coordinates are, I think, the other way round to one another, the distance is the same, but whether it's positive or negative along the green axis changes. I think Unreal is red positive and SketchUp's green positive, something like that. Yeah, not sure what you mean there. 2786382. 8798. Seven 2855. Eight 48193. Please do excuse my mutterings. I'll never remember if I don't say it out loud. Ah, yeah, I see what you mean. Fortunately, it's not a big problem to deal with. 25, 23, 700. Thanks, autosave. 1324, 170. What's that? 27686. I keep meaning to download something that shows the key presses as I press them. If anyone has an app they know that can do that, let me know. Two to go. 2393686. Ah, thanks. Yeah, I'll look into that then. One 546 854. Two 871. look at that actually. Blah blah blah, run anyway. I've lived dangerously. Yeah. Brilliant. Except it's on my face. Does it have a thing? Night tickle. Oh, there you go. Look, now you can see what I'm pressing. Doesn't do the middle mouse button though. Is that what the settings? Not seeing mouse. Oh well, that'll do for now. Better than nothing. Uh, 22440777. No, don't want Discord. Uh, 1756876. Yeah, fair point. It's alright, I never type passwords when I'm streaming. 38057. That's the main curve one's done. So what I can do here is I can theoretically, oops, copy sockets relative to world. Then if I copy that 90 degrees and then paste sockets, so. Yeah, I do want to delete the existing ones because we're going to replace those. Okay, and get rid of that. Now, in theory, I should have transferred those sockets over, and I can just copy these across. Huzzah! There, that saved a job. Okay, so we need to do the T-junction there. We need the framework there. Missed one there. I think I'll split this into 3. Let's have a couple of thin strips either side, because that also needs to have a grating in it. Okay, progress. Okay, well, why don't we go ahead and cut through these holes here, because right now you can't do the cold and dark tutorial because well, there's no door. So let's make a door. So the question I was asking myself with this is where to put the door, because now that we've got bulkheads here and here, sort of midway down the corridors, that's where the door was, which obviously can't be there anymore. Now I'm thinking because the main access point into engineering is here at this stairwell, and you've got the bulkheads there and there. If we put the door on the other side of them, then that's an extra layer of security as well, because you'll have to get through this bulkhead and this bulkhead to get into the battery rooms. So that's probably the best way of doing it. Yeah, I could do a door each end. I mean, it wouldn't hurt to have a door either side, and that would be nicer for the whole symmetry side of things. Let's see how it looks. So what you don't want is people bypassing a secured bulkhead by going through one door and out the other. Yeah, fair point, you can just skip those steps. Okay, Tegel, thanks. Let's get rid of all these little L's I've made everywhere. Right then, so we need F-deck framework walls. Specifically this one. So if we go for there, even on this one. Yeah, very true, Kaji. Seem to have lost the support brackets off of this somewhere. Copy these ones. Oops, wrong end. I wouldn't have thought anything changes. You've just got a wall in the way now. So I'm going to save this because the operation I'm about to do has consistently crashed SketchUp every single time so far. So let's see whether it does it now. So we take a component, we copy it via rotation to its new position, and then we type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's times 6 because I want 6 of them, and it didn't crash. Hurrah! So that has been crashing for me when I do that pretty much every time, which has been an absolute nightmare, but thankfully it didn't crash that time. very true. Very true. Right, that's the bulkhead bit done. Right, so the access point from the stairs is here, which means we want the door to be there. So we'll make that one unique, and then we'll punch a hole through it. May as well use this one as our template. So basically I want to extrude that as a flat surface, hoping that red direction is lined up nicely. So I guess the easiest way to do this is probably to go something like there, 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 there. And then if we intersect that, that gives us a nice flat face to work with. There we go. That is our sized hole. Right, then we can group that up and pop it over here. Surely that didn't just perfectly line up. What are the chances? No, it does look spot on. Wowzers. Height for that set, so it should be that tall. Right. To make sure I get the right bits of this the right height now, so I need 2.5 centimeter gap there and there. Which means I need to extrude that out a bit. Explode that, intersect that with there. Actually, before we do that, it might be useful to take a copy of these faces and intersect through them to make our door track. So that's 10 that side. Side, 15 in the middle. Okay. So you go forward 10. You also go forward 10. And that should be a gap of 15 ish. Get rid of those ones. Get rid of that. And that. And that. And that. And that. And that. Actually, yeah, I want a second face on there, so let's make that again before I extrude. Reverse that one. That one. Right, that's better. Because they'll form the inside of the door track. More like it. Lost a face there somehow. Where did that disappear to? Okay, what are you not intersecting with? Oh, I see. For some reason, that is not all the way to the floor. Well, that doesn't help. Making sure these are all the right height. No idea why those ones were the wrong height. Must have been something I did when I actually made the panel. Right, so now that should intersect properly. Yeah, that's better. So now it's just a case of joining them up. Can't quite remember how deep that door track is, so we'll use this one as our example. That one is 0.5. Okay. Just take that up by 0.5. Okay, now we don't need. Do we? Let's make sure this is visually consistent with this one. So, yes, that needs to be split down the middle. start getting rid of some of these faces now that we don't need. Get rid of all that internal geometry. Don't need that. Don't need that. Don't need that. Just give that an interior face. Don't need that one, don't need that one. Same there. You don't need that or that. Oh, no, we do need that one. Hang on, lost a face there somewhere. Making sure I've got no stray bits lingering on the inside. Okay, that's good. Okay, so that means the door to the battery room is on the other side of the bulkhead, and I agree that having a door either side of the bulkhead really defeats the purpose of the bulkhead, so we will do it that way around. Right then, so okay, that one's already updated, which is good. So we can go ahead and get them exported. I'll smooth that off and put the chamfers and everything on it afterwards. Right, so which one are you? You are Ring 2 F-Tech Framework Aft. That's that one. And that's just the standard one. other one. Darling, get rid of that for now. Otherwise you can't get in. In fact, let's get rid of all of them for a minute. Okay, so from there, through the bulkhead, and you have access to the room. Notice the bulkhead walls are missing on this one, but they are there on that one, so let's sort that out real quick. Looks like I already did fix it, just didn't export it. Yes, the lift doors were fixed quite a while ago. That's better. Bulkheads are now in. I suppose one other thing we can do real quick actually is let's cut the hole in these. I'm assuming they're copied over. Yeah, they're all components, so it will happen to all of them at once. Oh yeah, just remembered why I didn't do it like that last time. Basically, the curve overlaps some of the geometry there, which makes for an awkward edge. So if we delete that, paste it back in as a straight edge, and what we can actually do is curve that instead, except easier if I didn't intersect it first. better, much smoother. And no weirdness happening on this join. And all we need to do is just add a teensy wincy little curve there. There we go. Okay, so that one and this one. Obviously some of these are going to be cut through as windows at some point. Hey, Run for the Hills. Thanks for checking it out. I stream every Sunday and every Wednesday, so don't worry if you miss one. Plenty of streams. Why is it? Oh, that'll be why. That's betterer. This one's already naniting, so we're good with that one. Okay. Progress. Always liking progress. Okay, on that note, I think I'll leave that there. It has been... How long has it been? Almost 4 hours, so that will be why my back's hurting. Let's go for Big Dan, shall we? Ugh. Well, thank you once again, everyone. Always a pleasure to have you on the stream. And of course, I shall be back on Wednesday for more shenanigans. I will make sure that the Galaxy stuff is working at least in single player, and assuming that it is, I shall stick a build out. If it isn't, I won't. Obviously, we don't want to stick a build out where major things like that aren't working, but I'll go and have a crack at that in a sec. fingers crossed, it all works fine, and I'll stick a build out later. Right, have a lovely week, everyone, and I shall see you on Wednesday stream. Bye bye for now.